Paul George is taking his talents from the West Coast all the way over to the East Coast. He's agreed to a 4-year, $212 million deal to jump from the Clippers to the Philadelphia 76ers. How about it? PG-13 wanted a 4th year from the Clippers. Steve Ballmer and company were unwilling to do so. So George gets that 4th year. It's a player option year from Philadelphia, which now creates a new big three: Embiid, 1-3, and Maxey. Let me know your thoughts on Philadelphia breaking the bank for Paul George in the 2024 NBA free agency day one. I'll tell you my quick thoughts on the move. First off, I think it's a terrific move on paper and even on the court for the Philadelphia 76ers. They needed to make a move. We heard rumblings of Paul George and Philadelphia for months now, but then as we got closer and closer to free agency, it started to feel like Philadelphia didn't really believe George would leave Los Angeles. I was also one of those people that just didn't believe George would leave LA. He's got his podcast set up. He's doing a lot of great things in the media world. I thought he was settled, but feeling disrespected can take you to places that your ego maybe didn't know it could go. Clearly, he felt disrespected by the Clippers not offering that 4th year, enough to jump ship all the way over to the East Coast and go to Philadelphia, which we hear a lot of guys say that they don't want to do that at certain points in their career, going coast to coast. Paul George now is in a spot where, if we're being honest, he'll never be an Eastern Conference starter at forward again. Obviously, you got Embiid, you got Giannis and Tatum manning down those spots. He's in a position, though, to have an easier slate to the Eastern Conference Finals. In theory, Philadelphia hadn't had a lot of success getting to the Eastern Conference Finals in the Embiid era. They ain't got there yet. You know, I once had a saying about the Minnesota Timberwolves. I said that team would be a serious contender the day Anthony Edwards was better than Karl Anthony Towns. Now, I'll say the similar thing here with Philadelphia, but it won't involve Paul George. I believe the Sixers' ceiling is as high as Tyrese Maxey will take them. So the day that Maxey is better than Embiid has been where I believe the Sixers will be a serious contender in the Eastern Conference, assuming Embiid is still somewhat himself. So what am I saying about Paul George? Am I saying that this dude doesn't impact the team at all? Am I saying that he's not a better player than Tyrese Maxey right now? Am I saying that he's nowhere near as close to the player that Embiid is? Here's what I think about Paul George. Fantastic game. Everybody loves his package. If somebody had to ask you who's got one of the best bags in the league, Paul George will get a lot of votes in that conversation. For me, though, at the end of the day, George is not a dog. And I believe when it becomes playoff time, the dogs bark loud. I think George is a similar type of player to a Joel Embiid. Incredible player. Embiid's a freaking MVP of the league a season ago. George was in the MVP conversation a few seasons ago when he was in OKC. But that doesn't mean in the postseason, when you need the shot of all shots, when you're going against a Giannis, a Tatum, I don't believe either of those guys are the guy that can get you over the hump. I believe that will be Maxey. I actually think he is that guy. He just needs a little more time. I'll ask you a couple of questions. Let me know your thoughts. Assuming everybody's healthy, in a 7-game series today with Paul George, if the Philadelphia 76ers went up against the Milwaukee Bucks, who are you picking? I'm picking Milwaukee. Assuming everybody's healthy in a 7-game series, Philadelphia 76ers versus the Miami Heat. On paper, Philly would have more talent, but I'm still giving the slightest edge to Jimmy Butler in Miami. I just feel like they're going to find a way. Philadelphia 76ers versus the New York Knicks. Sixers added George. Knicks added Mikal Bridges. That's a 7-game series. Depending on who's got home court is who I'm picking in that series. And then obviously the NBA champs, the Boston Celtics. Even if they don't make a move this offseason, I'm still picking Boston in a 7-game series over Philadelphia. So Paul George to me, had to be done because it sets the right tone in Philadelphia. It gives that fan base renewed hope. The Sixers had to do something, because it became clear that when it comes to the postseason, number one, Embiid doesn't have that dog in him. He takes too many jump shots, number two. And number three, he's hurt a lot of the time. You needed to do something. Philadelphia did something. So give them credit. And I want to say part of the reason why Philadelphia was even in this position was not because they just managed the salary cap correctly. Let's keep in mind, over the last 5 years, they've had 2 star players get up out of town in Ben Simmons and James Harden. Ironically, those dudes were traded for one another at one time. So again, congrats to Philly. They should be celebrating today. Embiid's already celebrating on Twitter. But again, I still don't believe Paul George puts the Sixers over the hump. On paper he does, on NBA 2K he does. We'll see about it in real life though. If you are like me and love flexing your NBA knowledge, you should head over to the best place to play fantasy sports. That's Underdog Fantasy. For me, I love the pick'em game. It's super simple to play too. All you gotta do is go to the Underdog Fantasy website or app, pick whether a player will have a higher or lower stat line for that game, get all your picks right, and you can win up to 20 times your money. And when you sign up, if you use my code FERRO, your deposit will get doubled. You can't beat that. Again, head over to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy's website or app, use my code FERRO, and your first deposit will get doubled. Do you want to see your favorite athlete live in action next time they're in your town? Or do you want to see your favorite artist performing in concert next time they're in a city near you? Head over to the SeatGeek website or app and use my code HoopsFerro for $20 off your first purchase. Make sure you subscribe to the Is Mr. Teleferro YouTube channel, and hey, donate a super chat. Follow me on Facebook at Is Mr. Teleferro, cop a supporter badge. The Underdog Fantasy promo code is FERRO. The SeatGeek promo code is HoopsFerro. And follow me on Twitter at It's Mr. Ferro.